Hey Bradley fans, this is the Braves Vision YouTube channel breaking down the series review of the Bradley sweep over Southern Illinois alongside Larry Larson and Cole Bredahl. I'm Cody Schindler, and guys, this was really a dominant series for the Bradley Braves. They really came out, and it started with pitching on Friday, Larry, as Mitch Jansen came in through his first career complete game.
Absolutely. You know, that's what you like to see. We were talking before the pregame show when Bradley puts up 29 runs and Southern Illinois only scores 5, I believe. That's pretty self-explanatory. The offense really did a good job, but the pitching, not to be ignored. Obviously, you know, Bradley came out and dominated with strikeouts, not giving up a lot of walks. One stat that stood out to me was 3 walks the whole entire series. That's fantastic.
And that's something Bradley drew more than 3 walks in one inning sometimes against these SIU pitchers. They really struggled with the walks. But, yeah, the pitching for Bradley, Jansen had obviously a great outing. Goswine came out today in the first game, and, you know, he struggled a little bit in that one inning where he gave up 4 runs, but he really bounced back and had a solid outing, and then Cook finishes that one out, and then Cook gets the win in Game 3, and that was a good performance for him as well.
If I might add to that one inning, I think a few of those hits were lucky. You know, a few of those were bloop singles that just found the right areas, dropped in no man's land. So, again, solid performance.
Yeah, and give credit to Goswine. I think what says a lot about not only him, but this entire staff. You give up 4 in the second inning, and then he comes back, and then he did not allow a hit again until the 5th inning of work. I mean, that says a lot about him, and it says a lot about this pitching staff. But when we go back to Jansen's effort, the way he did it, Cole, you can speak to this as you were on the call for the game. Fastballs at the top of the strike zone led to a lot of weak contact.
Yeah, and so, I mean, he had 6 strikeouts, but wasn't blowing hitters away necessarily. He just kept getting them to fly out. It was just fly out, fly out, fly out. I mean, I think there was one inning where Andy Shadid got all 3 of the outs in center field. So the Saluki just had a hard time of putting that ball, getting it to drop.
And as we transition into Saturday, Larry, the bats came alive. 3 runs in the first inning for Bradley, thanks to home runs from Luke Shadid and Dan Bull.
Absolutely. That's one thing that really impressed me today was the approach at the plate. You saw it early on. These guys hit the 2 home runs in the first inning. You thought, oh boy, this is going to be a crazy game. But the team didn't get overconfident. They kept their composure, and you really saw that in their at-bats. They took their walks. They were patient at the plate, and they were waiting for those pitches. And then they got those pitches and drove them with a lot of timely hits and more home runs in the second game.
Now, Cole, Luke Shadid has been in the leadoff spot all year, and he has a lot of pop in his bat. What does that do as a pitcher when you see the first guy in the lineup knowing that he has home run ability?
Well, it's unlike, I mean, he's tied in, at least he came in tied for RBIs in this team, and that's unlikely from that leadoff hitter, and he's hit some home runs, and it's not an easy out, and it's not just playing small ball with your leadoff hitter with a lot of teams are, and it's something you got to worry about all the way through the lineup is that power.
I think that says a lot about Bradley's lineup is that all the guys are hitting right now. Everybody's getting on, and everybody's driving in those runs.
And then taking what the pitching staff gave them. They took at least 10 walks in that game. It was the second time all year that's happened to the SIU pitching staff, and the approach, to your point, Larry, was phenomenal and as good as I've seen all year in that first game. Now, in that second game, Cole Cook came out and he set the tone again. He pitched 1 inning in relief in Game 1. Game 2, he was sharp, Larry.
Absolutely, and that's one thing that really impressed me about this Bradley pitching staff is that they're not trying to go out there and blow fastballs by guys. They're pitching to weak contact, and that's really impressive to me.
And Cole, probably the star of the overall series, Andy Shadid. He homered twice, homered in Game 1 of Saturday's doubleheader. What'd you like from him this week?
Yeah, he had just the 1 hit in the first game, which was that home run. But, yeah, then he had 4 hits in the first game, and then he responded well again in this third game. But just a really good performance from him, and that's what you want. He's hitting in that 7 spot, but he was doing a great job there, getting those RBIs, and his team's helping him out with getting on.
And we talked to Andy Shadid earlier. Let's hear what he had to say about the series sweep against Southern Illinois.
I'm Larry Larson here with Matt Harrington with our player of the game, or the day, we might add, Andy Shadid. Andy, this one was a big one, 10th win in a row. What's that vibe like in the locker room right now? How's things feeling?
I mean, 10th win in a row, it's pretty surreal. I mean, I think that's our 10th game in the last 13 days. So it's been a pretty hard grind, but everybody's just trying to have fun, and, you know, it shows in the locker room and on the field. You know, we're just having a good time, just gelling with each other, just a couple of boys being boys, trying to enjoy this last part of the season. So
Oh, yeah.
it's good. It's fun. It's a good time.
Let's talk about your personal performance, especially in that first game today, second of the series. You had, of course, the home run, and then you drove in 3 runs with that single in the air. And you got pretty deep in accounts, I know, on that single that you had that drove in 3 runs. You got to 3-2 and then fouled a couple pitches off. What's kind of your mindset when you get deep in the count like that?
Well, today in that count, it was a full count. I remember, I think I fouled off like 3 or 4 pitches in a row. They were all inside. I know a few of them were probably balls, but at that point I was kind of in swing mode because I kind of was guessing the fastball was coming, so I was just trying to keep my head down, not strike out, and just put the ball in play. It ended up working out in like the 9th pitch of the at bat, so that was pretty cool.
You got it done, no doubt.
Yes, so that was big time.
So in the first game, both you and your brother homered. That's the second time you've done that this season. How special is that to you guys when you homer in the same game and have that success together?
It's really cool because I think when we first did it was against Eureka, and that was the first. We've been playing together our whole lives. Just on the same team our entire lives, and I think that first game against Eureka we both hit a home run. That was the first time we ever hit a home run together in a game.
Wow.
And we did it again today. It's just a cool moment for both of us. We don't have much time left to play together. We know that. Probably about 20 more games, hopefully more. We'll see, but it's just a pretty cool moment, especially for my parents too. I'd like to see my family keep watching us throughout the years. So I know it's been pretty awesome these last 4 years.
Oh, for sure.
So you guys got some time off now, a little bit of rest, and then you guys will return back to Dozer Park to take on the University of Illinois on the 23rd. And then you got a big series coming up against Dallas Baptist. What's kind of the mindset going into that series?
That series is a huge one for us just because we haven't beaten them, I don't think, since my freshman year. So I think that was like 2016. This is a huge series for us. They're always top in the conference. And, we're just looking to come out, play good baseball, and just try to take 2 out of 3 from them. Hopefully a sweep, but you got to take it one game at a time. That's what we've been learning with this. Obviously, with this win streak, we can only take it one game at a time. That's all we can control. So right now we're focused on Illinois, but after that, all our focus will be on DBU and try to take care of business, try to scratch off some W's just because we haven't beaten them since my freshman year, and there's some payback coming. Hopefully we can get them, but
Fingers crossed. We're looking forward to it. So that about wraps it up with our player of the game interview, Andy Shadid. Thank you for your time, and good luck the rest of the way.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
So you saw Larry and Matt interview Andy Shadid, and Larry, what was your biggest takeaway from that interview? I mean, Andy obviously very well spoken, and he had a big weekend on the field. What were your final thoughts from that interview?
My big thoughts there were it's just how much fun that whole team is having right now. You can see it. It's evident on the field, and it's evident in the dugout. And even just the Shadid brothers, that combination, to have 2 great hitters in the lineup that are brothers, that's just a cool storyline for us to talk about, and it's a cool thing for them and for their family, so I thought that was really cool.
That's now twice, right? Twice that they've homered Luke and Andy in the same game, and they did it early here in Game 1 of this series. Now, Cole, 10 in a row for Bradley. We heard Andy talk about that, but they've set a record now for most wins at home consecutively. They've now won 8 straight home games, or is it 9? It's now 9 after sweeping this series. I mean, that says a lot about this group to be able to win at home.
Yeah, 10 straight wins for this club, 9 of them at home, and it's really important to get that home crowd, get the family here, watching them win games. And, it's always easier to win your games at home and then, kind of go 500 on the road. If you can do that, that gets the job done.
So Andy kind of touched on that Dallas Baptist series coming up. I mean, that is a different animal, isn't it, Larry? We've seen Dallas Baptist, and they're one of the most respected programs in the country. How does Bradley continue to roll here?
100%. It's a huge series. I think they just got to stay confident. They can't let that name, Dallas Baptist, rattle them. They got to stay confident because hitting, it's half mental or more than that. We know they're capable. They know they're capable. And they just have to keep that confidence rolling into that series.
And Cole, Andy Shadid, one last thought on him. The strikeouts, that's something we talked about during the call. They have gone down each year. And this year we saw it, 3-2. He fouls off some pitches. He shortens up a little bit, and he puts the ball in play. How important has that been in his development now as a senior and a leader?
Well, especially hitting in the middle of the lineup, you need that ball going in play. You can't have strikeouts, especially with he's got players on with 1 out, no outs, 2 outs, whatever it might be. You want to put the ball in play and get some runs in, and that's part of the reason why he leads his team in RBIs.
We also talked to Elvis Dominguez after the ball game, and obviously he was in a good mood after Bradley swept Southern Illinois. Here's what he had to say to our Larry Larson.
I'm Larry Larson here with head coach Elvis Dominguez. Coach, huge series win. How important was this series to win after struggling against Evansville in your first conference series?
Well, we dug ourselves a hole there. We didn't play bad against Evansville. We just didn't get any timely hits. And, ever since then, our bats have been coming alive. We've just been putting together some quality at bats against some pretty good pitching. So, baseball's just a streaky thing, and right now we're running a pretty good streak. But, our pitching has been outstanding all year long. It was again this weekend, and we finally swung the bats, last night, and then obviously the first game today, and then we just did enough to go ahead and take the series here.
Now, speaking of bats, 29 runs in 3 games. I'd say that's pretty fantastic. What's been the key at the plate for you guys?
I wish I could tell you. And if you could tell me, I'd like to know. It's just been a like I said, after the Evansville series, I mean, we were 2 for 20 with runners in scoring position, and guys just took it personal, I think, and just decided to go ahead and put some quality at bats. And we've been battling up at the box, and we had great at bats all weekend long.
Absolutely. Now, huge series coming up with Dallas Baptist. What are you going to do to keep rolling there?
Well, I mean, we just got to go out and play solid defense. I mean, this weekend was all about pitching, hitting, and defense, and we did all 3 aspects of it and did it very well. That's what we've been doing in this, for about 10 days now, 13 days.
All right, Coach. Thank you. Congrats again.
All right.
So Bradley now 10 straight wins and obviously streaking. And Cole and Larry, both of you here, baseball is such a streaky game. How important is it to stay kind of in the middle? Because you can get too high or too low really quickly in this sport.
Especially playing some good clubs with Illinois and Dallas Baptist coming up. You can't think that you're going to go in and beat those teams. You need to just go in and play your game and hope for the best result.
Absolutely. Just staying in the middle, keeping that even keel, calm, cool, relaxed. That sounds pretty stereotypical, but that's really how sports works,
Yeah, you don't want to never get too high, can never get too low. You're always somewhere in the middle, right? That's how teams are looked at. Let's talk about some of the individual efforts this weekend. And Elvis said, plain and simple, he's like, I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, that's how good they were this weekend, putting up 29 runs. But some of the guys individually, we talked about Andy Shadid. I thought Dan Bolt, Larry, was awesome. He's a junior. He's now moved into that cleanup spot. And his power, it came on towards the end of last season. And now this year, what's impressed me, power against left-handers. We saw him take a left-hander out of the yard in that first game on Saturday. He can really play against anybody.
Absolutely, and that's really impressive to me is when a left-handed hitter, a left-handed power hitter, can hit against lefties. Another thing that's really impressed me with all the Bradley power hitters is they're not afraid to take it to the opposite field. That's something that the modern game of baseball is lacking, is hitting to the opposite field. All Bradley's hitters aren't afraid to do that, and Dan Bolt, no exception, and he's really driving the ball right now. It's fun to watch.
Now, Cole Keaton Rice, he went 0 for 1 on the day, if I'm not mistaken, and he drove in a run, and he scored some runs. He took 6 walks. What about his approach impresses you?
He leads this team in walks, came in leading the team, and he just extended his lead today. But wow, we were messing around on the broadcast, and he got down in an 0-2 count, and you said, well, I think he's going to get a full count here and draw a walk, and he did just that. He does a good job fouling off pitches. He doesn't swing at anything outside of the strike zone, and he gets on base for them to be drove in, which he does a good job of. And just phenomenal series for him, just getting on base.
And we touched on Luke Shadid's numbers as well, how he towards the top in RBI at the leadoff spot. Give credit to the bottom of the order, because without those guys actually setting the table, Larry, Luke Shadid is not a guy that's going to drive in runs.
Absolutely. That's one thing they're doing well. A lot of things they're doing well is making sure they don't strike out. They're putting the ball in play. They're making the fielders make those plays, and half the time they're dropping for hits. We saw that all series long. A lot of hits, and they did get lucky on some errors, and they forced the fielders to make the plays. And that way it sets up the top of the lineup, and we saw that play out.
And Cole, as Elvis kind of touched on that Dallas Baptist series, obviously, his mindset is we just got to keep doing what we're doing. If you look at that series next weekend, Where do you think Bradley has an advantage? Is it their ability to maybe play small ball? Is it the pitching staff that leads the nation in ERA? Where do you think Bradley could have an advantage next weekend in Dallas?
Well, I agree with him in the sense that you just got to keep playing the game you're playing, but I think pitching, I think that's where it comes. I mean, whether it's an advantage necessarily, but that's where it needs to come from for Bradley. They need to have strong outings and then have the bats back them up, as we've seen. This series is when you have your pitcher go out there in the first inning and you shut them down, the bats are going to follow.
So our final thoughts here as we wrap this up for the Braves Vision Series review. Illinois midweek game on Tuesday in Champaign. That could be a bullpen game. Cole, we talked about that. How do you expect to see Bradley approach that game on Tuesday?
Well, we really didn't see many pitchers this weekend, and some of them just being thrown in there just to get some work. So they really have essentially everyone ready to go. It's not an issue, so we'll see who we see, but anyone can be ready to go.
And Larry, speaking on that, Bradley just defeated Iowa on Wednesday, so they know what it takes to beat these Big Ten opponents. Now, Illinois may be a little different animal, as they've been highly touted the last few years, but, I mean, how can you not be fired up for that game if you're a Bradley player? And when you look at the series, what do you see? I guess it's just a one game, but it's just one game on Tuesday, but what are you seeing?
You know, looking at that Illinois team, Bradley just beat Iowa, like you mentioned, and Iowa has contended with Illinois, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they beat them in a few games.
Swept them.
Exactly, in their Big Ten schedule, so we know that Bradley's capable of playing with those Big Ten teams, and that game could be a big confidence booster. Even though it doesn't obviously count towards our conference record and the conference standings, that's a game where if you win, that could give you a huge boost of motivation going into that big series against Dallas Baptist.
And as we talk about that Dallas Baptist series, we look back last year, the three-game series played in Peoria, and Dallas Baptist came in and rolled. They dominated, and they showed why they were one of the best teams in the country. Do you think revenge could be a factor, Cole?
I think so, and I think this team wants to win, and I think bringing in that momentum, they really want to show the conference in the country that they can play with anybody, and they have so far.
And the last question we'll leave with this, Larry. This is a great baseball conference, and you kind of start to get the sense that maybe it's more open this year than it has been in previous years. As we look at the overall conference landscape through the first couple of weeks, where do you think Bradley fits in?
I still think Bradley fits in the top 4 at least. Probably top 3. Hopefully top 3. But we saw an Evansville team that came into Peoria and surprised Bradley. They could surprise a few teams. And then obviously you've got your strongholds in Missouri State and Dallas Baptist. And then Indiana State is always strong. So it's going to be interesting to watch. But me personally, in my biased opinion, I'd like to see Bradley in the top 3.
So that'll do it for our Braves Vision Series review. For Cole, for Larry, for Matt, I'm Cody. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And make sure to give this a watch. And again, thanks for joining us. Bradley sweeps SIU. They beat them 8-0 on Friday. They beat them 14-4 in Game 1 on Saturday. And then in the series finale, they defeated the Salukis 7-1. Outscore the visitors 29-5 on the weekend. Thanks for watching. This has been the Braves Vision Series review.